EP demands my table because it's closer to the window, even though we were already eating. My husband and I decided to treat ourselves to a nice dinner out last weekend. We don't get to do it often with our 2 young kids, so it was a bit of a special occasion. We chose a cozy Italian place downtown that we'd heard good things about and managed to snag a reservation for 7 p.m. We arrived a little early and were seated at a lovely table right by the window, overlooking the street. It was perfect. We ordered drinks and appetizers and were just starting to relax and enjoy our evening when disaster, in the form of an entitled parent, walked in. She was dressed in that typical "I'm better than you" athleisure wear, complete with designer sunglasses perched on her head even though it was dark inside. Trailing behind her were 2 kids, maybe around 6 and 8 years old, who looked utterly miserable. She scanned the restaurant, her eyes landing on our window table, and that's when the show began. She marched right over to our table, completely ignoring the hostess who was trying to seat her, and planted herself right next to our table, blocking the walkway. Before we could even ask what was going on, she launched into her demands, her voice loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "Excuse me," she said, her tone dripping with condescension, "but we would like to have this table." My husband and I exchanged bewildered glances. "Excuse me," I replied politely but firmly. "We're eating here." She scoffed, rolling her eyes as if we were the unreasonable ones. "Yes, well, we want this table. It's much better. It's by the window. My children want to sit by the window." Her kids, bless their hearts, were trying to shrink into themselves, clearly embarrassed by their mother's behavior. One of them even mumbled, "Mom, it's okay." But she just shushed him with a wave of her hand. I was starting to get annoyed. "Madam," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "we have a reservation for this table. We are already eating. You need to speak to the hostess if you want a different table." She huffed, crossing her arms and jutting out her chin. "Don't be ridiculous, just move. There are plenty of other tables. We deserve this one. My children are very well behaved and they deserve a nice view." Well behaved was certainly debatable given the current spectacle she was causing. At this point, the hostess, who had been trying to intervene, finally managed to squeeze past her and address the situation. "Madam, I understand you would like a window table, but this table is already occupied. I have another lovely table available, just a few tables over, if you would like to follow me." The EP waved her hand dismissively at the hostess. "No, we want this table. Can't you see? It's the best one. These people can just move. They aren't even finished eating." She gestured dramatically at our half-eaten appetizers, as if that somehow diminished our right to the table. The hostess, bless her patience, tried again. "Madam, I cannot ask paying customers to move from their reserved table. Please, let me show you to another table." The EP was not having it. She escalated her tactics, now turning to full-on whining. "But it's not fair. We came here for a nice dinner too. My children are so disappointed. You're ruining our evening." She actually stomped her foot, like a toddler throwing a tantrum. The other diners were starting to stare, some even audibly sighing at her ridiculous behavior. My husband, who is usually very laid back, had finally had enough. He put down his fork, leaned forward, and said in a clear, firm voice, "Madam, you are being incredibly rude and disruptive. We are not moving. This is our table. If you want a window table, you should have made a reservation for one. Now please, go to the table the hostess is offering you and stop harassing us." His voice was calm but resolute, and it seemed to finally penetrate the EP's thick skull. She glared at us, muttering something about unreasonable people and ruining her children's lives, before finally flouncing off after the long-suffering hostess. We watched her get seated at a perfectly nice table a few feet away, still grumbling under her breath. Her poor kids looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. The rest of our dinner was thankfully uneventful, but the whole episode left a sour taste in our mouths. It's just unbelievable how entitled some people can be, thinking they can demand anything they want just because they exist, and especially because they have children. We just wanted a quiet dinner, not a front row seat to someone else's dramatic meltdown over a window table. Can you imagine the audacity, demanding a table while people are already eating? It's next level entitlement. Hit that subscribe button if you agree. This is wild. EP screams at my kid during Little League game because he struck out her perfect angel. Little League season, the bane of my existence, but my son, bless his heart, absolutely loves baseball. He's not the best player on the team, but he tries hard and has a good attitude, and that's all I care about. Like, we were playing against the Wildcats last Saturday, and it was a close game, bottom of the 6th. Our team was up by 1 run. My son, Billy, was pitching. He was getting a little tired, but he was hanging in there. Up to bat was little Timmy, the Wildcats star player, and apparently, according to his mother, a gifted athlete and future MLB star. Timmy's mom, let's call her Karen, had been a presence at every game, mostly in the form of loud, unsolicited coaching from the sidelines and constant complaints about the umpire's calls. She was the kind of parent who seemed to think her child's performance was a direct reflection of her own worth as a human being, so the pressure was on for both Billy and Timmy, but especially for Karen, apparently. Billy threw a fastball, Timmy swung and missed. Strike one, Karen started yelling from the stands, "Timmy, keep your eye on the ball, you're not focusing." Poor Timmy looked flustered. Billy threw another fastball a little higher this time. Timmy swung again and missed again. Strike two. Karen's yelling intensified. "Timmy, what are you doing? You're embarrassing yourself. He's throwing meatballs. You should be hitting these out of the park." Billy, to his credit, was trying to ignore the commotion and focus on his pitching. Then came the third pitch. Billy wound up, threw a curveball this time, and it was a beauty. Timmy swung wildly, completely fooled by the curve, and struck out. Game over. Our team won. The dugout erupted in cheers. Billy's teammates ran out to congratulate him, and Billy himself was grinning from ear to ear. It was a great moment until Karen decided to insert herself into it. Karen stormed down from the stands, practically vibrating with rage, and marched right onto the field, heading straight for Billy. I immediately tensed up, ready to intervene if needed. She stopped right in front of my son, her face red and contorted with fury. "How dare you?" she shrieked, her voice echoing across the field. "How dare you strike out my Timmy? Do you know who he is? He's the best player on this team. You cheated. You must have cheated." Billy, who's normally a pretty confident kid, looked completely taken aback, his smile vanishing. He just stared at her, speechless. I stepped forward, putting my hand on Karen's arm. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said calmly, "but you need to calm down. It's just a game. My son pitched a good game, that's all." Calm was clearly not in Karen's vocabulary. She whipped around to face me, her eyes blazing. You're his mother, aren't you? You should be ashamed of him. He struck out my Timmy on purpose. He's a dirty player. He needs to be kicked off the team." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Kicked off the team?" I repeated incredulously. "For striking someone out? Madam, this is Little League. It's supposed to be fun. My son played fairly. Your son just happened to strike out this time. It happens." Karen was beyond reason at this point. She started pointing her finger at Billy, screaming directly at him. You little brat. You ruined Timmy's game. You're a terrible pitcher. You should never play baseball again." Billy's lower lip started to tremble, and I could see tears welling up in his eyes. That was it. I lost it. I stepped directly in front of Billy, shielding him from Karen's tirade. "That's enough," I said, my voice raised but still controlled. "You need to stop yelling at my son right now. He did nothing wrong. Your behavior is completely unacceptable. You're embarrassing yourself and your child." Karen just laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Embarrassing myself? You're the one who should be embarrassed. Your son is a disgrace. He should be banned from Little League forever." At this point, several other parents started to gather around, looking as shocked and disgusted as I was. Even the umpire, who had been packing up his gear, stopped and turned to watch the unfolding drama. Finally, the Wildcats coach, a decent and reasonable man, came over and gently but firmly led Karen away, trying to placate her and apologize to us for her behavior. He managed to get her off the field and back to their side of the stands, still muttering and glaring at us. Billy was still shaken, but I hugged him tight and told him he did an amazing job and that Karen was just being ridiculous. He managed a weak smile, but the joy of the win was definitely dampened by Karen's insane outburst. It's just unbelievable the level of entitlement some parents reach, thinking their child is some kind of golden god who should never face any kind of failure or disappointment. It's Little League, lady, not the World Series. Get a grip. EP tries to steal my parking spot at the grocery store, then claims I stole it from her because she has kids. It was a typical Saturday afternoon grocery run. The parking lot was packed naturally, and I was circling around like a vulture, desperately searching for an empty spot. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I spotted a car backing out near the entrance. Jackpot! I signaled, put on my blinker, and waited patiently for the spot to become free. The car pulled out. I started to maneuver my car into the space, feeling a surge of relief that my parking woes were finally over. And then, bam! Out of nowhere, a minivan comes speeding down the lane, cuts me off, and attempts to pull into my parking spot. I slammed on my brakes, honking my horn in frustration and disbelief. The minivan screeched to a halt, half blocking the lane and half in the parking spot I was about to take. The driver, an entitled parent of course, leaned out her window, glaring at me like I was the one who had committed some kind of parking offense. "What do you think you're doing?" she yelled, her voice sharp and accusatory. I blinked at her, completely bewildered. "Excuse me?" I replied, trying to keep my voice level. "I was waiting for this spot. I had my blinker on." She scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "Well, clearly you weren't fast enough. I need this spot. I have children in the car." I glanced at the back of her minivan, and sure enough, there were 2 kids in car seats, looking as thrilled as kids in car seats on a Saturday afternoon usually do, but that didn't give her the right to steal my parking spot. "Madame," I said, trying to reason with her, "I was here first. I was waiting for this spot. You can't just cut me off and take it." She huffed, crossing her arms and leaning further out the window. "Yes, I can. And I did. I have kids. They are hot and tired and need to get inside. You clearly don't have any kids, so you can just park further away and walk. It's not a big deal." Oh, it was on now, the audacity of this woman. "Are you serious, I asked, my voice rising slightly. "Just because I don't have kids, you think you're entitled to steal my parking spot? That's ridiculous. I was here first. You need to back up and let me park." She actually laughed, a dismissive, condescending sound. "Entitled? Honey, you're the one who's entitled. You think you deserve this spot more than a mother with children? Think again. I have kids. It's different for me." The "I have kids" mantra again. Apparently motherhood was a magical parking spot stealing pass in her mind. "It's not different," I retorted, my patience wearing thin. "It's a parking spot. First come, first served. I was here first. End of story. Now move your van." She was not backing down, literally or figuratively. She put her minivan in park, turned off the engine, and folded her arms, giving me a smug, defiant look. "Nope, this spot is mine now. Find another one. Maybe next time you should be quicker." I couldn't believe this was happening. We were causing a traffic jam in the parking lot. People were honking, and this woman was just sitting there, refusing to budge, all because she thought her mommy status gave her superior parking rights. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain some semblance of composure. "Okay, fine," I said, deciding to try a different tactic. "If you're not going to move, then neither am I. I'm going to sit here and wait for you to move. I have all day." She just smirked. "Go ahead. Waste your time. I'm not moving." And she actually pulled out her phone and started scrolling, completely unfazed by the growing chaos around us. I put my car in park as well, turned off the engine, and did the same. A parking standoff ended in the middle of a busy Saturday afternoon grocery store parking lot, over a single parking spot, because an entitled mother thought she was more deserving than everyone else. It was truly surreal. After about 5 minutes of this ridiculous stalemate, with cars now backed up behind both of us, a security guard finally approached, looking harried and annoyed. He assessed the situation quickly, listened to both our very different versions of events, and then, thank goodness, sided with common sense and basic parking etiquette. He told the EP that I was clearly there first, that she was causing a traffic hazard, and that she needed to move her minivan immediately. She protested, of course, whining about her poor children and how unfair it all was. But the security guard was having none of it. He firmly directed her to back out of the spot and find another one, further away. She finally relented, grumbling and shooting me a death glare, as she reluctantly reversed her minivan and drove off to find a less prime parking location. I quickly pulled into the now vacant spot, feeling a mixture of relief and disbelief at the sheer absurdity of the whole encounter. All that drama, all that entitlement, all over a parking spot. Some people, honestly. Seriously? A parking spot standoff? The entitlement is strong with this one. Have you ever witnessed a parking spot battle like this? Share your stories in the comments. EP demands to cut in line for a roller coaster because her kids are too special to wait. We decided to take the kids to the local amusement park last weekend. Big mistake. It was crowded, hot, and full of, you guessed it, entitled parents. But the worst encounter of the day, the one that really takes the cake, happened while we were waiting in line for the biggest roller coaster in the park, the Mega Tornado. The line was predictably long, snaking back and forth, but the kids were excited, and we were prepared for a bit of a wait. We'd been in line for about half an hour, inching forward slowly but surely, when we were approached by the dreaded EP and her 2 offspring. She looked exactly like you'd picture an entitled parent. Designer handbag, perfectly coiffed hair, sunglasses perched on her head, even though the sun was partially obscured by clouds. Her kids, a boy and a girl, maybe around 10 and 12, were glued to their phones, seemingly oblivious to the world around them. She marched right up to the side of the line, bypassing everyone who had been patiently waiting, and planted herself right next to us, effectively cutting in front of a good dozen people. I raised an eyebrow, giving her a questioning look. She completely ignored me as if we were invisible. I cleared my throat, trying to get her attention. "Excuse me," I said, politely but firmly. "The line starts back there." I gestured to the end of the line, which was still quite a distance away. She finally deigned to acknowledge my existence, turning to face me with an air of supreme annoyance. "Yes, I know where the line starts," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "But we're not going to wait in it." I stared at her, dumbfounded, like, "Excuse me? Everyone is waiting in line, that's how it works." She scoffed, rolling her eyes as if I were incredibly stupid. "Yes, well, my children are different. They are very sensitive and get easily overwhelmed by crowds and waiting. It's just too much for them to stand in line for so long. We need to go to the front." Her kids, still engrossed in their phones, hadn't even looked up or acknowledged their mother's pronouncements about their delicate sensitivities. "I'm sorry," I said, trying to suppress my rising irritation, "but everyone here has been waiting patiently. We've been in line for half an hour already. Your kids will have to wait just like everyone else." She actually had the nerve to laugh, a short, sharp, dismissive sound. "Oh, please, don't be ridiculous. My children are not like everyone else. They are special. They deserve to go to the front. It's only fair." "Special? Of course they were. Every entitled parent's kids are special." "Special or not," I retorted, my patience now completely gone, though, "they are not cutting in line. We've all been waiting. You need to go to the back of the line like everyone else." And she glared at me, her face contorting with indignation. "How dare you speak to me like that? Do you know who I am? My husband is very important. You don't want to make enemies of us. Just let us through. It's not a big deal." Oh, it was a big deal. It was a matter of principle. And also, I was just incredibly annoyed by her entitled attitude. "I don't care who your husband is," I said, my voice now raised, drawing the attention of other people in line. "You are not cutting in line. Go to the back." She actually tried to push past me, attempting to force her way further into the line. "Get out of my way, you peasant," she hissed, her voice now losing its veneer of polite entitlement and revealing the pure, unadulterated Karen underneath. "My children are going on this ride now." I stood my ground, refusing to budge. "Number, you are not cutting in line. Go to the back." The people behind us in line started to chime in, echoing my sentiments. "Yeah, lady, get to the back. Line starts back there. No cutsies." The chorus of disapproval seemed to finally register with the EP, or at least make her realize that she wasn't going to get her way without a full-blown public meltdown. She huffed, stomped her foot, and shot me a venomous glare that could have melted steel. "Fine," she shrieked, her voice echoing through the line. "Fine, we'll just go somewhere else. This park is obviously beneath us anyway. Come on, children, we're leaving this disgusting place." And with that, she dramatically turned on her heel and stormed off, dragging her phone-obsessed special children behind her, leaving a trail of bewildered and slightly amused onlookers in her wake. The line collectively sighed in relief and then erupted in applause and cheers. Justice had been served, at least in the queue for the mega tornado. It's just mind-boggling how some people think the rules don't apply to them, especially when they have kids. Special kids or not, waiting in line is a part of life, and cutting in line just makes you a jerk, no matter how important you think you are. Special kids, special treatment, same old entitled parent playbook. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more crazy stories, and have a great rest of your day.